For 40 years the Israelites lived in fear, crushed under the rule of the Philistines. Their enemies were strong, and their hope was fading. But God had a plan. He would raise up a deliverer, one whose strength would come not from weapons or armies, but from God himself. One day, an angel appeared to a barren woman and spoke words that changed history. "You will have a son. He will be set apart for God, and his hair must never be cut, for he will be blessed with great strength." This child, Samson, was born with a destiny: to begin delivering Israel from its oppressors. As he grew, the power of God rested upon him, making him unlike any man who had ever lived. Samson's strength was legendary. One day, while walking through the vineyards, a ferocious lion lunged at him, but with his bare hands, he tore it apart as if it were nothing. Later he returned to the lion's carcass and found a swarm of bees making honey inside. He scooped some up and ate, never realizing that this moment was a sign, a sweet victory rising from something once dead. His battles against the Philistines were unstoppable. When they tried to capture him, he took the jawbone of a donkey and single-handedly struck down 1,000 men. Another time he ripped the massive gates of a city off their hinges, carried them on his shoulders and walked away, leaving his enemies humiliated. No chains could hold him, no army could defeat him, but Samson's greatest enemy was not the Philistines, it was his own heart. Samson had a weakness for Philistine women, and this would lead to his downfall. He fell deeply in love with Delilah, a woman whose beauty hid a dangerous secret. She had been bribed by the Philistine rulers to discover the secret of his strength. Night after night she pleaded with him, whispering sweet words, convincing him that if he truly loved her he would tell her the truth. Samson resisted at first, toying with her, giving false answers, but love blinded him, and over time his resolve weakened. One fateful night as Samson lay asleep in her lap, Delilah carefully cut his hair. The power that had made him unstoppable vanished in an instant. Suddenly, Philistine soldiers stormed in. Samson jumped up to fight, as he had done so many times before, but he was powerless. His strength was gone. The Spirit of God had left him. The Philistines seized him, bound him in chains, and did something even more cruel. They gouged out his eyes, leaving him in total darkness. Dragged to prison, beaten and humiliated, Samson, the mighty warrior, had become a blind slave. For months, Samson toiled in the darkness, grinding grain like an animal. But in that time of suffering, something changed. His heart turned back to God. His strength had come from the Lord, and in losing everything, he finally saw what truly mattered. As time passed, his hair began to grow again, and with it, hope was reborn. One day, the Philistines held a great festival to celebrate their victory over Samson. Thousands of people gathered in their massive temple, singing and drinking, mocking the once mighty warrior. Samson, now blind but filled with one last prayer, asked the servant leading him to place his hands on the great pillars of the temple. He lifted his face toward the heavens and whispered, "Lord God, remember me, strengthen me one last time that I may bring down my enemies." A surge of power filled his body. With every ounce of strength left in him, he pushed the pillars apart. The ground trembled. Cracks spread through the walls. Then, the entire temple collapsed. Thousands of Philistines, including their rulers, were crushed beneath the rubble. And in the center of it all lay Samson, fallen but victorious. In death, Samson achieved his greatest victory. Though he had stumbled, though he had fallen into temptation, he turned back to God and fulfilled his purpose in the end. His story is a powerful reminder that no matter how far we fall, no matter how lost we feel, God gives second chances.